Where is Everyone? By Rev Black Rage. Today started out like every day. My phone started playing the song Johnny Cash's Died at 3 a.m. Time to get up. My morning routine went normally. Roll over, kiss the wife who grumbles out her usual sleepy wishes of a good day at work and her declarations of love. I return them by switching out the wish for a good day at work for a good day at home with the kids. She goes back to sleep. I got up, put on my flame-resistant work uniform, brushed my teeth while taking a piss. Didn't bother shaving because, well, it's the weekend, and no one who gives a shit about facial hair will be on the site. I pour my coffee into my mug, the one that proclaims, "Stay 100 meters back or you will get shot," in English and Arabic. And in tiny little print underneath, Camp Fallujah, Iraq. A relic from my glory days. I checked on the boys, asleep in their beds, at least 2 hours to sleep yet, before they had to get up for school. I checked on the baby. She was still asleep, twisted into one of those bizarre sleeping positions that infant managed to roll into. The kind you look at and go, how the hell is that comfortable? I walk out of my garage, lighting a cigarette as I went, to the Ram 1500 sitting in the driveway. I stopped for a moment as I opened the door. It was quiet. Very quiet. There's a highway about 4 blocks from my house, a fairly major one. The kind you can find yourself on, sitting in a traffic jam in the morning. I had subconsciously gotten used to the noise from it over the past few years, my lower mind shifting from the incoming data my senses provided. When the highway noise was no longer present, it stuck out like a pink house sitting in the middle of a neighborhood full of beige houses. It was odd. No cause for immediate concern, but odd. One of those things where you just shrug and say, huh, and then just get on with your day. The 5.7-liter Hemi V8 sounded a lot louder than it usually does, in the dead silence, as I brought the truck to life. I plugged my phone into the Ram stereo and put on an old episode of the god-awful 5-Star podcast, and then pulled out of the driveway. I wasn't really listening to it, just had it as background noise. I'm not a fan of quiet drives. I pulled out onto the main road of my neighborhood. A few blocks of big box stores, strip malls, and gas stations bring me to the highway. I noticed that the streets were empty, completely devoid of traffic. That's not rare though, especially at this time of morning, so I paid it no mind. You have to go under the freeway to get to the northbound feeder road, which I take to get onto the freeway. There's a 4-way stoplight before going under the overpass. Now, if you've ever lived in a largish city, you know that there's homeless people constantly. Any well-built underpass usually has a few of them living under it. Little camps. It's usually nothing more than a shopping cart filled with random things, maybe a few bags, a few blankets, sleeping bags, sometimes a tarp or two. You know. I noticed that a few of these little camps were present, however the occupants were not. That was nothing too concerning either. Sometimes they get rousted out by police or the highway department. I pulled onto the freeway itself. Now, this is where I started to get a weird feeling. I usually share my morning commute with nighttime truckers and drunk drivers, coming back wherever drunk drivers come from. But there wasn't another vehicle as far as I could see. I usually see headlights or taillights off in the distance, but I saw nothing. Alone in the world, I remember chuckling to myself. I kept waiting to see another set of headlights pop up in my mirrors, looking to the other side of the freeway as well, almost hoping something came towards me. Nothing ever came. I took the tollway exit, moving through the easy tag lane. I looked in the booth on the lane where people pay with cash. I didn't see anyone in the booth either, which was odd. Those are usually always manned. I merged onto the tollway proper, and I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw the first bit of movement of the morning. A shape trudging along the side of the tollway in the morning darkness. It looked kind of like a man, in a dark hooded cloak like a monk would wear. He stopped and watched my truck drive by. I couldn't see the face in the hood. The hood was a void of darkness, and I felt my gaze drawn to it. I realized I was slowly pulling my truck towards the side of the road as I watched the monk in my rearview mirror. I got pretty close to the Jersey barriers that lined the tollway before I realized what I was doing. Ah, poop. I mumbled as I pulled the truck back into the lane and getting my attention back to the road. I mostly forgot about the monk. I live in a big city, and people do weird shit in big cities. The rest of my drive to work was fairly uneventful, and I mean that literally. Nothing happened. No cars, no people. I even noticed that there weren't any airplane signal lights across the sky, which is weird because there are 3 airports and a National Guard base in my city. I pulled onto the parking lot of my site. I was almost overjoyed to see other cars in the lot. The cars all belonged to the graveyard shift workers. I parked and got out of the truck. I looked up at the gate to my site. The lights were on in the security building, but I couldn't see anyone sitting behind the security desk through the big windows. There was always supposed to be someone in that office. I walked back to the area where the workers wait to get picked up and taken back to their respective subsites. I was the only one there. The shift change usually brings a crowd. I called my office to let the night crew know I was there. No answer. No worries, they were probably busy. I waited about 20 more minutes, calling my office several times, never getting an answer. Finally, I decided to walk back to my subsite. Now, when you walk through an industrial site, there is always noise. Trucks moving around, people yelling, and general tool noise in the background. But this morning, there was none of that. It was like walking through an industrial ghost town. The silence was starting to get to me. I was starting to get a little jittery. No sound. I dislike loud places when they're silent. I jumped when I saw something crossing the road ahead of me. The movements in the still darkness was like someone screaming bang at the top of their lungs in study hall. It was Rocket, the half-tame raccoon that lived on the site, out on his average late-night search for food, before retiring for the day. No trash can is safe from Rocket search. "You stupid asshole!" I screamed at the oversized rat, my voice echoing off in the silence. I got a little caught up in my emotions. I didn't appreciate being spooked. Rocket stopped and looked at me, before returning to trundling across the road. I took a deep breath and kept walking towards my office, and the subsite it sat on. I was yet again surprised to find no one there. Very strange, as we run a 24-hour facility. I looked high and low and couldn't find a trace of anyone in the office. I left and started walking the site. I found the site's work truck next to one of our containment areas. It was idling and the door was half open, the interior light shining on an empty cab, and no answers. I got into the pickup truck and drove back to the subsite's office. Still, no one there. I was starting to panic at this point. Where the hell was everybody? I waited for about another hour at work, with no one showing up. I found a logbook. Its last entry was at midnight, mentioning unusual distortions in the security cameras. It was listing each camera that showed the distortion. Then, it abruptly stopped mid-word. Like whoever was writing it just went, the hell with it. A thought occurred to me. That monk was the only thing I had seen on the road. And it was heading back towards my part of town. The thought that my family might be in danger burned across my mind. I was out of the office as fast as I could move. I left the truck at the worksite gates just like I found it. Engine idling, door open. I was in my truck in a heartbeat. I floored it out of the parking lot. I got back on the empty highway, pushing my truck as hard as it would go. I screamed and punched the steering wheel every time I hit 105 on the speedometer, because that's when the governor kicks in and backed my speed down to a safer rate. The fear and frustration was making me irrational and angry. I passed the point where I had seen the monk. Part of me was planning on running him over when I saw him. I don't know why. He just might have been some crackhead out cosplaying. But part of me felt like the monk was connected to this. I was cursing out the stupid cocksucker who invented automotive speed governors and the stupid shitheel who thought about putting one in a truck with an engine that held a reputation for going fast. When I realized that the radio was on, and it wasn't Bluetooth to my phone, it wasn't on satellite mode either. It was playing regular old AM radio. It sounded like static, but I could hear something in the static. Kind of like when you're listening to the radio and leave one station's broadcast on and enter an area that hinges on another. Faint ghosts in the white noise. I was only half listening to it when something else came on. Something that must have had a little more juice to its transmission. I caught about every other word. Most of it was getting eaten by static. The voice sounded like... I don't know what. I've never heard anything sound like it, I guess. I guess you could say it sounded like white noise molded into words.
Complete souls ran. Do not fear. Gather night dominance.
My breath caught in my throat. As little information as that provided, it was terrifying enough for me. I didn't know what I was going to find when I got home, and the anxiety was starting to make me physically ill. I took my exit and shot up the road, running every red light I came across. I left my truck running in the driveway and ran into my house. My empty house. I screamed, I cried, I punched holes in the wall. Not them, not my wife, not my kids. Please, no. I broke down. I didn't stop sobbing until an hour or two later. My wife's SUV was in the driveway. I made a half-hearted attempt to look for them. The kids' school, the grocery store, the strip malls. I searched all of them and didn't find a single soul. I lost my temper at the parking lot of Target Superstore. I grabbed the handgun that I kept in my truck and emptied the magazine into the front of the building. I grabbed the spare magazine that I keep in the glove box and emptied that into a Honda Civic parked near me. The gunshots sounded like bombs going off in the dead quiet of the morning. No one came. After 15 minutes of pacing and screaming like a madman, begging the universe to send my family back to me, and cursing the monk with every foul word I had, I promised to rip his face off with my bare hands. I collapsed. I sobbed with my face pressed into the concrete. It wasn't fair. Why did this happen? Where is my family? Where is everyone? Why did I have to be alone? I stopped crying eventually. I think I was just out of tears at that point. I sat in the parking lot for what felt like a couple hours, waiting for something to happen. But of course, nothing did. The words on the radio came back to me. One stuck out in my head. Night. They're coming back tonight to get the ones like me, the ones they missed. I have to assume there are more of us. Otherwise, why would they be coming back? For one dude who's barely hanging on to his sanity? It would be a waste of time. I'm sitting on my couch right now, writing this in the hope that someone else will see it. I don't know if anyone will. The last thing I saw on Reddit was posted at about 3:30 this morning. My Facebook feed is dead. The local news channels are all showing black screens. I have my phone connected to the TV. I've been watching videos of my wife and kids. I miss their voices. I've spent most of the day loading shotguns and rifles, cleaning them and doing function checks on them. I don't know if I can kill one of them, but I aim to try. I'm assuming that there's a lot of them. Otherwise, how would you drain the world of people with only one monk? I'm under no illusions that I'm going to survive the night. I don't know if they'll kill me or just disappear me, but I'm planning on taking a couple of them with me. I hope to see my wife and kids again. Good night, and good luck. Oh, children, I am joyous to see that you have concern for my well-being. I can assure you that I am alive and well. I was so wrong to fight them. Us. If you don't recall my earlier foolishness, maybe you should rewind the video to the beginning and listen to my tale of arrogance. I don't have much time to share with you. My body grows different, better. The longer I spend in the embrace, I will soon grow beyond the needs of this device to share the glory of the embrace with you, and as such, I will no longer have use for the physical embodiment of the old ways. I will no longer have needs of these hands, and they will die away. But do not be sad, child. I merely no longer need them, like a baby, like my daughter sheds her first teeth. It will not be painful, and I won't even notice them go. You may not understand what I mean, but you will. For if you're reading this, you're different. The first reclamation passed you by. This was not a mistake. There's something within you, child. Something that the one above desires of all his acolytes. It may sound scary, but in truth, it's a blessing above all others. We carry out his will. I envy the ones who were reclaimed for the eternal construct, but my place is here, as an acolyte. I'm sure you want to hear the tale of how I was brought into the embrace. I will tell you, but I feel I must be brief. There's much to do, and I can feel my old foolishness threatening to rise to the surface. It fights me. It's tiring to keep it down, but it's not a matter to concern yourself with. It will die off like the rest of my old ways. The one above all will not be denied his small victory, motherfucker. I'll tell you this tale so that you know all transgressions are forgiven. I'll tell you this tale so that when we come for you, you know to let us in. We have no anger towards you. We just want to welcome you into our embrace and go forward as one, in harmony. When the brothers arrived to collect me, I did not understand my higher purpose to the one above all. I was afraid. I was angry. I was frustrated. I responded with violence, awful violence. It was a tragedy what I did to my poor acolyte brothers. I had placed several devices of destructive means around my home. I had no idea if they would harm my brothers, but in my misguided arrogance, I misplaced the urge for violent vengeance. Such anger, motherfucker, was not needed. The brothers merely wanted to welcome me into their warm embrace. I was standing in the front yard of my house. I had been setting up traps made with something called tannerite, a homemade explosive compound mixed with nails and glass. When I looked up, I realized the sun had gone down. I felt a slight twinge of fear. I had been so transfixed on my labors of violence that I had not noticed the blessing of the dying light. I noticed that a brother was standing at the foot of my driveway. I did not know when he arrived. He made no move to harm me. I know his intentions were never to do so. I heard his beautiful singing in my mind, beckoning me to the embrace. I felt irrational fear, but that was quickly stomped out by furious anger. I brought up my weapon I was carrying, a truly gnarly device designed for death. I believe that I used to know it as a 308. Shit makes them dead as a motherfucker. Though the brother screamed out to me, begging me to cease the violence, I did not relent. I can still hear his beautiful screams in my mind. I walked forward, firing into him as I went. We in the embrace are hardy of construct, but we can only take so much, and that close, there was next to no way to miss. Stupid son of a bitch was a sitting duck. After several discharges of my weapon, the brother fell to the ground. This did not cease my assault. I stood there and emptied the weapon into his corpse. Truly barbaric. I remember hoping that He was the one on the roadway that I had seen humbly carrying out his duty. I retreated into my home, as I knew of the death of one would bring more. I had no way of knowing that I had already been forgiven of the transgression. Sadly, it would not have mattered to the old me. I remember looking down at the tannerite bombs with a sort of perverse glee, envisioning the destruction of more of the brothers. It pains me to revisit that memory of my old self. The brothers came. I was ready for them. The procession was beautiful, acolytes marching down the street in columns of two. They march like shitbags, led by a single elder brother. They sang as they came, old songs of warmth, welcome, and a call to service. I was not able to appreciate the chorus. No, I was concentrating on waiting for them to enter something called the kill box. Ghastly term with an ugly purpose. As soon as the beautiful march of brothers passed my home, and both ends were out of the line of sight of my position in the window of my daughter's bedroom, the procession stopped. As one, they all turned and faced my home. They started to sing a beautiful song. They were asking for my companionship to go on the march with them. There was no need for senseless death. Predictably, my old self responded with violence. I smashed out the window and took aim with my weapon. Not at the brothers, but at one of the evil things in my front yard. I discharged the weapon and the round hit the jar of tannerite and nails. The blast was loud. It drowned out the beautiful singing, replacing it with screams of agony. It will forever haunt the entirety of the embrace. It was horrible. Shredded cloaks and mangled brother beneath littered the deck. You down with IED? Yeah, you know me. The brothers were forced to defend themselves. They came up the driveway at my house. They sang songs at me. I have control again. I'll try to make this quick. All you just read was mostly bullshit. They're trying to trick you into coming out to them and giving up. Don't. They finally brought me down after bum rushing my house. The tannerite got a lot of them, but there was still a lot more. The one I shot in the driveway took 20-round magazine full of 308 to bring it down. They are not easy to kill, but they are killable. They started to fucking scream in my head as soon as I shot the first jar. It hurt, but I was able to shrug it off and keep shooting at the jars. If my wife ever shows up again, she's gonna be pissed about the state of her yard. God, I hope she gets pissed at me about the state of her yard again. I would give anything for that. The tannerite and shrapnel didn't hold them off though, and shooting into them was like throwing rocks into an oncoming wave. Fucking pointless. I left my daughter's room and retreated into the attic. I left my old dumbbells in a way that would fall on anyone who tried to get through the access door. Kevin McAllister ain't got shit on me. I hunkered down in the far corner of the attic. They moved with mostly silence, but I could still hear the occasional creak of the hardwood floor below me. They were in the house. I think they decided to wait me out. They must have figured that coming through the attic door would just get more of them killed. They just sat below me, whispering to me, telling me it was all going to be okay, and that I should come with them. I didn't believe them. Occasionally, the access door would move, trying to get a reaction out of me. They would whisper when they did it, telling me that they could come in at any time. I heard frustration in their voices. At one point, the door opened just a little too much, and one of the dumbbells slipped through. I heard it fall to the ground below, smashing into the hardwood floor. There was a scream of pain that I heard in my mind. That made me smile, for the first time in a while. Eventually, I just got too tired. That's what really got me, the weariness, the voices begging me to give up. I knew that I was going to fall asleep, and when I did, I knew that I was done for. I would rather have died. So I watched a couple more videos of my family on my phone, smiling through tears at my daughter's first words, Papa. I watched a video of the boys wrestling while my wife cheered them on, just to have their voices and faces in my mind, while I did what I was about to do. I kicked open the access door. Black hoods with no faces in them stared up at me from the hallway. The rest of the dumbbells fell onto the hoods. I heard a few mental screams of pain. That made me smile too. I didn't say a word as I fired down on them with my old Mossberg 500. When I racked the slide back and found that the magazine was out of shells, I dropped down on them. I rode one into the ground, swinging my empty shotgun as hard as I could. I know I hurt some of them. To touch them was to burn. I don't mean I caught fire, I just mean a general burning sensation when they try to restrain me. Don't let them touch you. After that, it was just random snatches of consciousness. Being dragged out of my house, a hood being pulled over my head, more burning, being drugged down the street, someone else walking in my body, another one of the monks telling me to try to use Reddit to lure out more survivors without a fight, more pain in my head. I think that's when they started putting that thing into me, that pitiful little shit whistler sitting at the back of my mind right now. I can feel it pushing to take control of me. It's angry, real angry. It knows what I'm doing, and it is screaming at me to stop, telling me what it's going to do to me. But guess what, motherfucker? I'm not trapped in here with you. You are trapped in here with me. I'll tell you what I figured out. If you're reading this, they want you. There's something special about us. We don't give in to them when they whisper to us. Most people did. That's why they couldn't bring us into the embrace last night. They're planning on making us like them. I don't know why. It would have been easier just to set the house on fire and let me burn. They didn't. They wanted me. They want us. They serve this one above all douchebag, but that's all I know about it. They seem to have some sort of fearful worship of him. The thing in the back of my mind just got angrier when I called his boss a fucking douchebag. Spread what you know as far as you can. I don't know how much longer our infrastructure is going to hold up with nobody at the switch. But put it out there. Post it on Reddit. Break into a TV studio and broadcast it. Get on the radio and yell it out. Share what you know. Let people know that they aren't alone, that these things are killable. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance. I can't tell you what to do. I don't even know what to do. By the time you read this, I might not even exist anymore. But if you see a guy who looks like me in a black hood, do me a solid. Empty a rifle magazine into my chest. Guys, this is another banger from Rev Black Rage, the same guy who wrote the I Too Have Seen Weird Shit as a Marine. Dude is a real solid author. But patron time from $10 and above in order: Dan R, Paul Z, Mr. Swiston, Official Jerboa, Chaos X, JY, Pyromancer, Hayden MH, and Ethan A. Guys, if you want some Patreon-only content, you want your name read off at the end of the video and in the description, head over to the Patreon in the description, guys. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it.